This next series of videos is going to be a little bit of a surprise. It's a little bit different than I think anything I've seen on YouTube before. I live in St. Cloud, Florida, and my stepson and his wife live about 10 minutes from us. Around the corner from their house, one day when I was dropping her off, one of our neighbors was having a tree cut down in their front yard. And I stopped and talked to the guys who were cutting it down, and I got some of the lumber, some of the logs. Many of them are currently in the shed in the back drying. They're going to need to sit for a couple of years. I have some smaller pieces here. I have some pieces that are kind of really odd and unusual and interesting shape. And pieces of wood like this really beg to have something made out of it interesting. Maybe some type of fishing rod holder for the ground. But what I'm going to do with this piece of wood here, and this tree is, I believe, this is Sycamore. I'm going to cut this about here somewhere, and I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to make a spoon out of this. Some of this is going to be done with a bandsaw. Some of it's going to be done with carving chisels. And when it gets done, I will bring it over and present it to the people whose houses came from and let them show them where this project is going to show up on YouTube and on Rumble and possibly on some of my Instagram stuff that I'm also starting. And we'll see how that goes. So let's get started on this. This is going to turn into some spoons. This part here is a couple spoons. This part I think I'm going to end up turning into a scoop of some sort. Step one in the process is to figure out where this is going to be divided for the scoop. I have a very good reason for cutting it there, and that reason is why not? And then for the spoons, I'm going to cut it in half this way. I'm going to cut the spoons. Here I'm drawing the rough outline of a spoon. Normally I would use a pencil, but so that it will be easier for you guys to see, I'm going to use a marker. After I draw this out, you'll see me put it into the vise and get to work with some chisels. This one is a 525. It's 25 millimeters wide. I got this from Woodcraft. Now you can see it's going to start slipping in the vise. So I went ahead and put a piece of the wood cut off underneath it to use as support. As I carve deeper into the bowl, this larger chisel starts getting a little bit too fat for the narrow diameter of the bowl I've dug so far. I'm also starting to pick up the grain, so to get a little bit more control, I grab a 714. It's about half the width. This one is 13.5 millimeters across. At this point, I switched to my hook knife or scoop knife. This tool is perfect for scooping out roundish shapes and for smoothing the inside of the bowl. This part is a little bit dangerous because I am doing this
in my hands with a sharp instrument, so this is a little something you got to be really careful doing this.
So here's the bowl. It's got a pretty good shape to it. So now I'm going to cut this out on the bandsaw. I'm going to put on my breathing protection here, my hearing protection.
Mrs. PBJ watched this video. Her only complaint was, honey, it's too long. I said, honey, it took over 4 hours to make that spoon. She just shrugged her shoulders, so I've done some edits to shorten the length of the video.
Now, if I didn't pull off too much, this is where I start shaping.
I start my shaping with just a standard file.
Now this area I'm doing with a file because I made it too thin. I don't want to take a knife to this part, it'll just break.
And here I've switched to a knife, and then you'll see me reaching into the tool chest for more rasping files.
Normally you don't make stuff with the pith, but I just like the way it looks. I don't even know the name of the people that I'm making this spoon for.
And I continue to use various files and rasp and knives to shape the spoon. And a bunch of sanding.
So that's the spoon. I'm going to put some butcher block finish on this since it's going to be possibly used near food. So with this wooden spoon that I'm making, I have a couple more steps to do. I already put one coat of butcher block oil on it. That happened off camera. Unfortunately, my card was full and I didn't get that first coat, so you really didn't get to see that pop. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and burn my initials in the back and the date. Then I'm going to go ahead and reapply the oil and you'll get to see how that looks. I've zoomed into my work area here. And I got a piece of the Sycamore that I'm going to just use as a little test. I'm hopeful that my temperature is good enough to do the first letter. Now I'll have to let this cool down so I can change the tips. So the heating iron is warm enough to do its thing on the Sycamore. So now it's time for the L. There's the L. Now I'm going to switch to the fine tip and I'm going to use it to freehand write the date. Okay, L 2021. And now for the real fun, putting on some of this oil. Now, even though this stuff is food safe, for cleanliness purposes, I just go ahead and wear a glove anyway. But this stuff is food safe. I'm not going to tempt fate by drinking it or anything, but so let me come in a little bit and you can see when I put the oil on, It really helps bring out some of the richness in the color. So this coat I want to leave sit here kind of damp for about 20 minutes. Then I will come back and wipe off the excess oil or butcher block oil. And then I will finish posting the video, and I will bring this over to the neighbor and present it either today or someday early next week, because tomorrow should be a fishing day.